Hi everyone, it's Natalie here, and sadly I was behind on my weekly readings this week, and it's the first week that that's happened. And because I missed it so much, and I it really gets me not to keep up with something that I've made a commitment to. So I thought, well, what can I do? Because the week is nearly, we're Tuesday here. And I got up this morning, and it's the first day I've had in a week, really, where I could pause for a minute and just reassess. And I realized it's the new moon. What a perfect opportunity. So instead of a weekly reading, I'd like for us to look at the energy of the new moon that's coming up starting today. So it is the new moon in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is also my solar return. So it felt like the right timing to do this and offer a general reading to everyone to look at the energies brought in by this new moon. I have not done the astrology for it, so this is just a tarot scope. Well, I mean, not just, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no additional, like, deeper astrological information influencing the reading. So, no Amenti Oracle this week. Instead, we're gonna take the joy of working with the Mary L. Tarot that started for me and for some of you, hopefully, on Sunday night with the live. And I'm going to do the general reading with my handy dandy, trusty, beloved first edition. And then instead of a general weekly reading with the tarot that I do with 3 cards and an oracle deck, this week I will do a Thanksgiving reading to look at what kinds of influences we can expect for the holiday for those of us who are in the United States. Because let's face it, things are things around that dinner table could be really intense. Let's face it. What with all of the the political climate right now, and the environmental climate, and various other things, social factors, and economic factors, and there's a lot happening. So I thought we would look at both of those instead this week, and that just sort of dawned on me this morning, literally dawned on me when I woke up. So yeah, that said, let's go ahead, and I lit a candle, and it's a new moon reading, so I felt like clearing some space, and yeah. So we're going to look for our Fool. Actually, you know what? I feel like let's empower ourselves a little further. Let us use the Magician this week as our significator. Well, the Magician is sort of gendered within the tarot deck, right? With the Magician holding one gender and the High Priestess holding the other. Let's all just say, let's hold that Magician's energy for the week, knowing that we have the power for this coming new moon cycle, which could last anywhere from the next month to the next 6, right? So the influences can be felt for a very long time. That takes us into the new year as well. So it feels more appropriate to use the Magician card as our significator. So Magician, you have been elected. We are all our own magicians right now. So let's shuffle him back in. Page of Cups is who just jumped. Just wanted to show that. So we'll take into account its energy as well. There we go. Sorry, fussing with the camera here. It's so dark outside today, and it's morning. It's not that early, but it's overcast. So let's see where our magician is. Okay, not in the wands. Oh, isn't that interesting? That Page of Cups showed up here in our pile along with the Magician. So this time for this new moon, and interestingly, appropriately to the new moon, we're in the Hay one pile, or the Cups pile. So when the when our significator is found in the Cups pile, it means that our problems are going to be most easily solved, or anything that comes up that requires some deeper attention is going to most easily be solved through feeling, and by tapping more deeply into our emotional well, right? Or emotional, perhaps even the emotional abyss. So the Magician gives us the empowerment to make use of all of the elements in order to solve those problems, and tap more deeply into what's necessary. And simultaneously, I still feel like I still know like we're still working with deep emotional stuff. So this new moon is going to bring some very interesting emotions to the surface, I think, for us to look at, and contemplate over the next month to 6 months, in order to gain a deeper insight into our lives, a deeper sense of what our purpose is, what we're doing, and how we accomplish that. And that feels right. No pun intended. I'm a very fiery person. I have a lot of fire energy, and equally, I have a lot of water in my chart as well. So feeling and intuiting are pretty big for me. All right. So that said, let's go ahead and set up the card counting. As you can see, I've got all of these cards numbered. So you'll be able to see kind of how I'm working here with the general spread, and the general reading because of those numbers. I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer, I think, so that we can actually see that better. I'm hoping that'll work. We'll find out. My instinct is to go anti-clockwise with this one. Can't tell you why exactly, but I think that's what we're going to do. Just going to put this little guy here for our new moon energy. This is a moonstone. It's a black moonstone. So these are perfect for new moon energy. And I just love this stone. It's got this sort of peach color woven in. It's one of my favorites. So yeah. So to begin the count, we start with our Magician significator, which is 9. And we're going to be moving and counting this way. So starting and including our Magician, we're going to count 9 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow. So our first card is the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is an elemental card, and worth 3, the number 3. So we'll count 3, not including the Hanged Man because he's been counted already. 1, 2, 3. We have the 9 of Cups. Rather a nice energy to work with. Okay. course, that's worth 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, the star. And she's worth 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The Chariot. Chariot is also a zodiac card. I put the symbols of the different associations on here as well, so that I made sure that I was including those in my thinking as I was learning the spread. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 4 of Swords. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 of Swords. Oop, moving out the crystals here. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Page of Swords. Okay, so Page of Swords is worth 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and she completes our cycle for us. I am going to pull out our Page of Cups as our jumper card because I feel like there's some powerful information happening in this card for us. So I'm going to take our Page of Swords out and put it to one side. So we have Hangman, 9 of Cups, the Star, 4 of Swords, 7 of Swords. Okay, so this will be the second time I'm recording this part because, oh dear, technology. Still love technology. So, yeah, I forgot to write down the Chariot, and that's actually very significant because when we look at the cards we have, the Chariot, we have 7 cards, and number 7 shows up in the middle. So that's pretty significant. That's pretty significant. And this is a deck in which the Chariot and the concept of the Chariot as our soul's vehicle and its relationship to the Magician card are of utmost importance. So I'm also going to include our Magician just, with the cards and our Page of Cups, because they both jumped as I was shuffling, which I often don't worry about when I'm doing a general reading, but today it felt significant. And I tend to try and trust those impulses when they come up when I'm reading. They usually do have a significance that needs to be paid attention to in some way or integrated into what we're doing. So I'm going to include them along with the other cards in, not necessarily in the way that I link them together, but as influences. And I think it's significant too. We've got the Page of Cups that wanted to jump. We did find that our cards were in the Cups pile, and yet we have one Cups card, but we've got all of these swords popping up as well. So although, the Chariot's associated with Cancer, the Hangman is associated with the element of water. We have the Cups. There's water, a lot of water and air energy, sword and air energy going on, in addition to the water energy. So let's go ahead and switch the camera around and see what we've got. One thing I'm noticing looking at our spread coming up for this new moon, obviously we have the Chariot here in the middle, and we have we have a minor that's also a 7, very significant in this deck in particular. We've also got the Page of Swords opposite the Hanged Man, beginning and end. And I kind of feel like that's about where those minor points are done overlapping. So I want to give my keywords for these cards because I feel like the keywords alone tell us a great deal that we need to know about each of these cards. These are keywords that I've been working on regularly at just refining and pulling together over the last year, basically. So for the Hanged Man, his keyword is submit to your destiny. So if we look at these in order, we have a little story that strings together rather fascinatingly. Submit to your destiny, commitment and humility, authentic self, conscious intent, fertile retreat, self-determination or belief in self and purpose. Oops, I need to go this way so you can see these better. And finally, beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is one that I question for this particular card. I'll tell you why when we get to it. So if I were going to string these together and a little bit more clearly, we would have that this new moon is asking for us to submit to our destiny, especially with the magician as our significator. Let go, let go, let go. Find the way, like Odin, to go beneath the roots of the tree and bring back treasures. That is not always a voluntary process, right? Sometimes we find ourselves in this position. And the best thing that we can do is let go and submit and allow that process to play out. So it may be that something in this coming new moon cycle, which may continue, to offer us fruit or bear fruit over the next up to 6 months. This is an important theme for us to look at. Okay. That said, part of that submission is, of course, going to be humility and hopefully a sense of contentment. Hopefully. This is a really satisfied looking baboon who's clearly very, very content, holding space between these two opposites here. And recognizing that somehow by sitting down and resting, this is going to lead, along the Jacob's ladder towards enlightenment in some fashion. So by taking stock of what is there, of what it has, what we have, and choosing actively to be content and humble, to approach our process with a level of humility, we can be very, very empowered to move forward. So it would seem that the ego is going to be very challenged, in the coming months, certainly this month. The star is wonderful. My keyword, of course, for the star is authentic self. So the authentic self reminds us of who we really are and of the beauty and hope and astounding promise that lies within and that can thereby be offered to the world. There's something very transcendent about tapping into that authentic self. We have this kind of almost, I don't remember her mentioning this in the book. I could be wrong. I've taken in an awful lot of information in the last couple of weeks and months. But we have a sort of, I always think of her as walking, but she's also, this is stigmata, right? There is a Christ self, a beautifully transcendent self, a self that is above and beyond, all of the ego parts. We have these people that you can kind of see in the background here, that this part is, is able to transcend. So we may be in a position where we need to tap into that as much as possible, in the coming months, in order to really utilize the energy of this new moon, coming forward. What is the authentic self that we can bring, into the light? Then we have the Chariot, and the Chariot is about really harnessing and working with and within our conscious intent. It's making very, very conscious choices about how we decide to live our lives. And it's not as simple as what it sounds like. If we think of it, if we look at her, her heart space is really prominent here, and it's opening and blossoming. And in part, I always feel that it is because she is enfolding inside of her cape, inside of her chariot, all of the light and the dark that she is. And no one is left out. So she is choosing to accept all of the parts of herself, both the light and the dark, in order to find a way to move forward on the journey. Yeah. And so I feel strongly that, again, as we find the authentic self, and we really begin to uncover and work with that in ourselves, naturally it provides this sort of raft that gives us space to be able to take these parts in and embrace them fully. So think about, what is your black dog? What is your dark, the black dog is staring directly at us, as is the white dog. But even the white dogs, even though there are three of them, they're still pretty, they're not perfect. They're not perfect. What are those parts of ourselves that we don't like, that we don't want to accept, but we already know exist? And how can we love them more fully? Okay. And as we do that, it's exhausting. That's a process that's a process and an energy that takes a lot of work. There will be times we are going to need to stay quiet and retreat from things in order to integrate that. Integrating that, it's a challenging process. You see the clouds here. It's not easy to see this clear sky that exists beyond these clouds. And of course, down here we also have this these smokestacks that draw us in. There is something about that feels potentially toxic. But if you notice, there may be just a little bit of toxicity, but look at how much of this is pure. It's cloudy, but there's a purity about it that is actually very beautiful. And, full rain clouds like this, even though they haven't released all of their seeds, right, the seeds of rain and water, they're perched and ready to purify whatever is there that may feel toxic, and release it, help us wash it clean, wash it out of the air, and ultimately to move on so that clear sky can be restored. Moving on to the Seven of Swords. I love this one. So she tells a story in the book about this raven needing to, stealing this jewel and then making the choice to return it to the sun. The imagery is stunning. As we wrestle with ourselves and we wrestle with the forces around us, the conditions around us, the importance is to hold on to that jewel of truth, the jewel of authenticity, integrity, faith in who and what we are and in our own goodness, and continue going towards the sun with it. Even when, this white serpent wraps itself around your wings and wants to find a way to hold you back. We just continue moving towards the sun with that jewel, knowing fully that everything will be okay. And And it's an active choice. It's a choice in the way that we monitor and work with our thoughts and our thinking. And it's a choice in the way that we then verbalize that in the world. How do we express that? What do we need to put boundaries around and say no to in order that this jewel can remain intact and find its way back to the sun? And these are all parts of this card. So it happens on a deeper level. It happens on an everyday level as well. Okay. And then we have finally the Page of Swords. And I love this Page of Swords. I've really come to embrace her a lot. So I want to read a little chunk. I've marked all of these in the book in case there were little chunks I felt like I wanted to draw us to. And I do for this one for sure. So she says of the Page of Swords that she's proven herself. Let me just pull this back up. I cut all my nails off this week. I can barely pick anything up off the table anymore. Let's see. She's proven herself with her strength and ferocity to be worthy of wearing the dragon on her skin. For if she falters, the dragon will consume her. She goes further to say dragons are an auspicious symbol of good luck, good fortune, prosperity, strength, and power, natural and harnessed in a person's actions. The strength of this page is that she is not yet imprisoned and made hard with old beliefs. She has a beginner's mind and perhaps a youthful arrogance, and can imagine and fearlessly pursue any possibility. She thinks, invents, imagines, acts, and speaks boldly without fear. So, this again relates for me back to that Nine of Cups, actually, because there's a certain level of humility that comes along with this Page of Swords. In her second edition, Marie White says, part of the meaning of this Page of Swords is to let go of preconceived notions, have curiosity and never stop learning. So a big part of what we need to do is to continue that journey of an unknowing mind, a beginner's mind, in a world that likes to plan everything, that likes to know the outcome of everything before ever picking up and getting ready to move forward. We can't always know. We can't always know. While I appreciate on some level the notion of, goal setting and planning, they're definitely things that we need. They're very helpful. They do help us structure things. But the idea that there are things that are, not that most things should, and I'm going to should on us all here, that should be under our control is actually not the case. There are many conditions, in fact, the majority of conditions in the world that are beyond our control. But if we have a beginner's mind, we have a greater ability to adjust the sails. We can become responsive to what happens in the world. We can become responsive to ourselves, to others, to our circumstances, all of it. But it genuinely requires a willingness to let go of our ideas of what should or shouldn't happen. And there is magic in that as well. Deep, deep magic. That brings me, interestingly, to, sorry about bumping this here, the Page of Swords. Talk about adjusting the sails. The keywords that I have for the Page of Cups are leave the dock. Leave the dock. Let me just double check. Is that right? Oh, leave the safety of the dock. Leave the safety of the dock. This is a Cups card that's taking emotional risks, being willing to step out of our comfort zone. And, there's so much overlap between the way, the swords function in terms of the heart and mind. This is a mind card, but notice her mind is not present with us. And there's something radiating from the throat and heart chakras. There's a void here. There's space filled in here. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And here we have the heart affecting the mind. The fish starts at the top of the heart space and its tail wraps around this page's head. So in order to really know how to come back to a beginner's mind, we have to be willing to step out of the comfort zone, leave the safety of the dock, right? And then take a beginner's mind to move forward. So I feel that, in really utilizing the energy of this new moon is very much about, it's going to be about submission. There's a lot in here about submission, humility, authenticity, making choices that include all parts of ourselves and extend compassion to them, offering ourselves space and time to retreat in order for things to be washed clean and purified, and for things to become clear, moving forward with intent, with boundaries, and with a drive, a mind that is really intent on seeking that wisdom, that jewel, and holding it with integrity, full integrity. And the best advice we have is to move forward with that beginner's mind. And that beginner's mind sometimes may mean shutting off. There's no head showing. Close off the intellectual mind. Let go of the intellectual mind. Pay attention to what your feelings are. What are the feelings coming up and out of that void? That is how we harness the luck of this dragon and the good fortune, instead of allowing that dragon to eat us alive. Our old wounds that come up that are part of this dragon, right? We've been through it just enough. Those wounds will come back and bite us if we let them. But if we can come back to the present moment, and we can come back from a place of integrity, from authenticity, humility, submission, these are not easy things for us to do, by the way, at all, at any point. But we stand an amazing chance of being able to use the energy of this new moon moving forward, certainly for this month. And this would definitely make sense for the month of December, but perhaps also into the months ahead, as part of a greater journey that we're on. Okay. So if you have questions at all, post those in the comments. And otherwise, I wish all of you a beautiful new moon and an extremely happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will be posted later than this one. All right, folks, take care. Bye.